Hey guys, welcome to the Amateur Otaku Podcast. I am your host for today, Michael Thomas, or as for right now, I'm going by Michael Shimura. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, the Mad Punster Doc, Isaac. We are reviewing My Hero Academia, Season 5, Episode 23, Tenko Shimura Origin, and Episode 24, Toma Shigaraki Origin. We missed last week, so we were kind of doubling up this time, which is kind of fitting. This is like the two-part finale for this My Villain Academia story. Isaac, I just want to get your thoughts on this arc as a whole, because it's been talked about all season. How are you feeling on the MVA arc, and especially how they kind of closed it out here with these two episodes?
I mean, I can understand why they are so heavily. I was highly, how should I put it? Like we talked before. I was talk with you and Leo before on how and how we were, how should I put it, concerned in how they would handle it all.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they did a damn good job, all things considered.
Yeah, so they cut out a lot of information. And if you want that information, I highly recommend you read the manga for My Hero Academia. It's $2 on Viz. I can't recommend it enough. It's a great series. Of course, we love the anime adaptation as well. But they cut out a lot of info, but that also meant they streamlined it. So each episode has been basically focusing on one character, right? We had a Toga episode, a Twice episode, a hint of Dabi here and there, which I feel like is building towards something else. And we have these like 3 really episodes dedicated to Tomura Shigaraki. That information that was cut was information on the Liberation Army, on Re-destro, on Spinner even. And in the grand scheme of the story, it's not that important, but it kind of did help flesh out this world and make it feel more natural, because we kind of jump into this villain arc. And it's one of the issues I have with the villain arc, the way the anime has presented it, is that we kind of just dive right in. No warning, really. We just have to do it as a flashback because they already showed us how it ends. So for what they put the corner that they put themselves into, I think they handled it really well. I still kind of wish it was the original way the mangaka Horikoshi wrote it, you know. But these last 2 episodes, the Tenko Shimura origin and the Tomura Shigaraki origin, are 2 of the best episodes of My Hero Academia to date. And I think that's incredible that in spite of everything that we can complain about with this season or how they treated this arc, the story was so good and they put so much care in these 2 episodes that both of them are probably easily top 10 episodes of My Hero Academia. Am I crazy for saying something like that?
No.
Okay. Yeah. I just kind of wish we had a little more time for it to breathe instead of 5 episodes, maybe 8 episodes, something like that. But, you know, it's been a great ride with MVA. But let's talk some more details about these 2 episodes specifically. The Tenko Shimura origin. Isaac, I just want to let you know again that origin episodes in My Hero Academia are crucial. Only 3 characters have had an origin episode up until this point. Izuku Midoriya origin, I believe, was like episode 1 of the series. We had Katsuki Bakugo origin, Shoto Todoroki origin. Those are the 3 main characters of the story, right? And they all had origin episodes. Getting an episode called Tenko Shimura Origin is huge. and it's showing what Shigaraki, his importance to the series, right? Like he's always kind of been the underling to All for One, but now he's kind of stepping up to be that main villain. And much like how he had to gain Gigantomachia's respect, and I think that also applies to the audience, where this arc was Shigaraki establishing himself, his I am here moment, right? Establishing that he's the main villain of the series. And I just think it's incredibly well done, seeing how dark and twisted his origin story is, and him decaying his family, but him also finding joy in doing something so violent. Great stuff, man. Great stuff. I want your thoughts on episode 23 specifically.
I mean, it's fantastic. It's a fantastic. It's raw. It's just a perfect episode. Double. It's a it's a perfect origin story episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. So in episode 23 here, we Shigaraki finally gets his flashbacks. And I like how we kind of established earlier that he was having flashes of his memory and it all kind of comes rushing back. But just how twisted it is. And this is why I think it's a good thing that we're reviewing these episodes together, 23 and 24. Because they really bleed into each other, because Tenko and Tomura are the same person. And I was telling a friend before, but I'm going to just say it here on air. Shigaraki and Deku are the same character almost. You know, like they both wanted to be heroes.
My sister, who watches, which is ironic considering you watches the anime with your sister also and all that jazz. When she saw this episode, she says like the scenarios between
Midoriya and
Shigaraki. Mm-hmm. It's sort of like a nature versus nurture example.
Yeah, it really is. They are literally two sides of the same coin. And these episodes reveal that when he was a child, like every child I would assume in this universe, he wanted to be a hero. He wanted to be like All Might, which is insane to think about, but also makes sense because, again, he is the grandchild of Nana Shimura. So,
yeah,
with all of that, we've known that since like season 3, so that's not new information, but we never knew what led him down the path he's on, and it's just heartbreaking that the story of abuse and how being a hero affects your family is also a major theme in this season, just looking at Endeavor and his family, right?
Yeah.
Endeavor's strive to be great, his strive for greatness, caused him to become a monster, and he abused his family, and he regrets it now, and he's trying to make amends for it. But it's like, if he wasn't a hero, would any of that ever happen? And it kind of applies here too, where Nana was a great parent, or she was trying to be, but duty called, and she had to go die to protect the world from All for One and save All Might, because we know that she had to basically give her life to protect All Might at that time, the future symbol of peace. And so her son hates heroes, but he's also taking that out on Tenko. And
you can
him go ahead.
You can. It begs the question on how it would have happened if his father was more what's it called? Supportive. Maybe they could have molded his power to something much better.
Oh yeah,
they are. What did you say?
No, I was just gonna say, like, his quirk is decay, and if he had a supportive family, that's a really useful power for a hero. In rescue situations, like if somebody's pinned under debris, you can just decay the debris off of them, or you can find ways to use that quirk well.
Exactly.
It goes back to like what, episode 100, where Aries afraid of her quirk, but Deku is saying it's all how you use it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but his dad is not supportive. He's the exact opposite, right? He is a monster.
That's an understatement of the year.
Major understatement, right? So Tenko, much like Midoriya, wants to be a hero, and much like Midoriya, is told that he can't. But when Deku, the difference between Deku and Tenko is that one, Deku was a little bit older than what happens to Tenko here at like 6 years old. But like you said, nature versus nurture. His mother, which we always talk about how great Mama Midoriya is, Inko. He had a mother like Inko, who, even though she knew Deku couldn't become a hero and he didn't have a quirk, she loved him anyway and brought him up to be the strong young man who we know him today. Whereas Tomura, his mother loved him and supported him, but she also had to basically deal with what his father was instilling in him, beating him, yelling at him, making sure they didn't find out about their grandmother. And it's like all of that abuse, verbally, physically, boiled over into when that quirk manifests. It's terrifying because just like Shigaraki felt, there's a part of you, a dark part of you that's like, yeah, he probably should have decayed his father, because he was a terrible human being. And it's twisted.
Yeah.
It's twisted.
It is. I mean, it's stuff like that I would really like to see. And I know it's going to sort of like an offshoot, but there is not that I can hear at least, but what I'm trying to say, it would be interesting to see anime doing when it comes to filler, do a what if episode going into all that, like Marvel's What If, yes.
Mm-hmm. That would be really interesting.
And not just some sheep. Let's not go back to the whole previous episode in a way. I thought it was a waste of time.
Stop insulting the beach
anyhow,
episode, man.
I always roll my eyes over stuff like that because they are for obvious reasons.
We're talking about
if I see some
origin.
Yeah, I know, but I think it just his new dad's his new father, so to speak, and he is just, as we all know, just crawls down the spine, so to speak.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so I guess the entire idea of Shigaraki being liberated, right? That's what the next episode, 24, leads into, of his liberation. He beats his trauma, much like Twice did. And he basically finds freedom in using his meta abilities to whatever he wants. He wants to destroy everything. And he's going to destroy everything. And that's what makes him scary. He is now free. In the truest sense, like nothing, no fear of death, nothing. He is just, he's truly free, which is why Re-destro in this next episode, 24, submits, basically. And it's interesting how during the fight, again, these two episodes are beautifully animated, by the way. They are the best episodes of the season, by far. They truly adapted Horikoshi's artwork,
it's
basically panel for panel. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, it's they certainly fixed up the budget when it comes to the animation.
The budget,
that's for certain.
The budget looked like it went up a few $1 million with these 2 episodes. Like they took the box office from the movie and just applied it right here.
Kinda.
So
kinda.
We have this episode here, kind of like finishing off from episode 23, going into 24. And Shigaraki is embodying everything that Destro wanted. And I love that that's how this story ends. Because it could have just been Shigaraki decays Re-destro and he takes over by force, right? But having him realize that Shigaraki is free and that he does stand for everything that the Liberation Army wants, it makes sense that he is now basically like their king, their ruler, right? The head of the Paranormal Liberation Front. It's chilling, man, because while you can get into it and root for the villains, we still want Class A to not die, you know?
Yeah.
And so...
Yeah. So...
How do you think they handled the whole liberation side of this episode?
It's gonna be quite interesting, that's for certain. How they are going to do that, I have no fucking idea. It's because, as we mentioned before...
No manga spoilers.
Well, this isn't manga spoiler, so to speak.
Okay, just making sure.
It's getting dark. It's just getting dark and brutal, which Shonen Jump anime mangas often do at the end game. I mean, Naruto, Dragon Ball at the end of C, One Piece, even though it's not at the end, have gone quite dark over the time, and then we have, even though it's not a shonen Jump, the title Fairy Tail got extremely dark and brutal at the end of the manga.
Mm-hmm.
So that's nothing new.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Studio Bones does as far as the rating of My Hero Academia Season 6. Because while this season, especially this MVA part of the season, is significantly darker, I think they did a good job of like working their way around the censorship of it all. Like when it decays, they cut away, and then they cut back to a pool of blood, right? But you don't see the person become a pool of blood.
Yeah.
There are some things that happen in the next season that's going to be hard to cut away from.
There is a lot of stuff that's going to be hard to cut away from in Season 6. That's for certain.
Right. But yeah, not getting too far ahead of ourselves with that. I guess I feel like they could have done a better job, because we mentioned this in our last episode when Leo was here, that they could have done a better job with Re-destro and the rest of the Liberation Army, because in the manga, they're set up prior to meeting Shigaraki and the League of Villains. And so, like at the end of this episode, they kind of shoehorn in that, hey, you're the lead, you're the CEO of this corporation, right? That means you have money. And it's like, up until this point, we should have already known that they had money, because they've been using support items. Like he literally had this giant Hulk Buster suit of armor.
Yeah. And if only stress could help us become so much stronger in real life. It could help it. It could help us all quite much, even though you would Maybe not go Hulk strong and more. Maybe help it become more mentally strong. But I digress.
If I can turn my stress into power like Re-destro, I'd be freaking One Punch Man. I'd be Saitama up in here.
I get you.
Yeah, but it's gonna be really interesting. I'm excited to see where the Hawk stuff goes. He's been my favorite part of the story thus far, these last 2 seasons, and so knowing what he has to deal with. Because at first, when we heard he was investigating the League of Villains, it's like, okay, it's 6 dudes and a crazy high schooler, whatever. But now it's like, oh my god, this is a nightmare. The heroes can't possibly beat them, right? Right?
It's gonna be tough, that's for certain.
For sure.
And it's gonna be, I mean, I dare argue that the upcoming arc, without going into the, it's gonna be interesting to see what anime only watchers gonna think of it.
That's the best part, honestly, because like even as a sub watcher, looking at my dub watching friends, they just got Sad Man's Parade today and they flipped out. You know, that's the best part of all of this with My Hero. You can enjoy it, but also enjoy other people enjoying the story as well. That's what I love about anime and manga, sub and dub. Instead of like making you choose one or the other, it's kind of cool seeing how 3 different sides of the same fandom experience things differently.
Yeah.
Because we've been talking a lot, building up this liberation arc. And then you remember that this arc was the lowest selling arc in all of My Hero Academia.
Yeah, it was a lot. There, isn't it because the whole Japan don't like villains and all that? Yes,
that's part of it. But I think like just all audiences, when they see that Deku's missing for what 20 chapters almost, or in this case 6 episodes, that's a lot. Like just imagine having an extended stretch where Naruto is not in Naruto, you know?
Yeah. But I mean, here in the West, we like our villains, so to speak.
Yeah, that's why it's really interesting seeing it play out, because everybody's been loving this arc. But also, I think Bones had the right idea of condensing it as much as they can. I still think they condensed it a little too much, but cutting it down to where it's digestible, where you can have, sure, 5 episodes, cool, that works. 10 episodes might have been asking a lot of your audience to not have their main characters in the story, to follow these villains that they didn't really like until this arc. Like, I didn't fall in love with Toga, not in a weird way, but I didn't fall in love with Toga until we got her backstory. And it's just like, oh my gosh, this is a fantastic character. At first, it was like, okay, she's just some vampire girl, whatever. But now it's like, with the backstory, you feel for Shigaraki and Toga and Twice in ways that you just didn't earlier in the series. And it makes the conflict that's to come even more interesting, because a part of you agrees with both sides. They should be liberated, right? Toga basically went crazy because she had to suppress her quirk. But on the flip side, you can't just stab people or decay whatever you want. And that's what makes the future of the series very interesting, and how the world is going to change when this army steps forward, and what the Hero Society is going to do to kind of combat that and try and find neutral ground.
Yeah. But it's interesting to see that at least. I wonder how the anime watchers in Japan, as anime only watchers in Japan, have said about this arc. Honestly, because here in the West, people have sort of eaten it up. It seems, at least.
In Japan, that's a good question. I would think it's kind of similar to how they reacted to it in the manga.
Because I know, for example, I know that I've mentioned it before, but there is a reason. There is a reason why Vegeta is sort of like the punching bag in Dragon Ball right now, and while he gets L after L, the only one that's really annoyed by that, as far as I am aware, is the Western audience, and not the Japanese ones over there, because, like I said before, they don't follow follow villains and all that jazz. It's I do believe it was a Shonen Jump editor that said it was unorthodox to focusing on the villains as much as they did with My Villain Academia, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, it's unorthodox in every story, really. I mean, think about even in Western comics, it took 80 something years almost to get a Joker, like a proper origin story. Like, you have like the stuff with Killing Joke and Red Hood and all that stuff, but that was never really confirmed to be like his actual origin. And to this day in the comics, we still don't really know his actual origin until the Joker movie, right? That's the first time we really focused and keyed in on Joker's story. So it's kind of unorthodox in all superhero stories, really, across the board.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I loved everything about these 2 episodes specifically. I loved the animation. I think one of my favorite moments is Shigaraki just decaying the entire city, and then just looking at Re-destro, just like, why are we fighting again?
I mean, it's kind of want the same goal.
I know, but it's just like Shigaraki doesn't even remember why he's here. He's just like, what? I know that I was supposed to bring again Tomakia, but why did you want to fight me? And it's just like, that's the biggest disrespect ever, where he's just like, I don't know, whatever, man.
I mean, he kind of is that kind of a character at the end of the thing. He's just do as he wants.
He is, and that's what makes him scary. A little scarier than all one, I would say.
Yeah, it's sort of like how can argue, going back to the Joker part, that Joker is more scared than Lex Luthor to an extent.
Sure. Yeah, you said that a few episodes ago, and you're totally right.
Because with Lex Luthor, you can at least, if you work for Lex Luthor, you can feel more sure that you come out alive in a day's work than working with Joker.
That is very true. You never know what to expect with Joker. And that's again why it kind of bothers me that we kind of skimmed over the Liberation Army, their backstory, because this literally was a battle of Lex Luthor versus Joker. And the anime didn't really cover that part of the story or that part of the conflict. So that's a missed opportunity. But on the whole, I think they did a fantastic job bringing this arc to a close. We've got one more episode left, guys. So make sure you subscribe and you come back next week for the finale of My Hero Academia Season 5. It's been a blast doing this season with you.
It has, but we are going to continue with the manga, and we're also gonna cover My Hero Academia Vigilantes. So
yes. Oh yeah, the fun doesn't stop. We've got Vigilantes, we've got the manga, and of course we've got the movie. The third movie is going to be coming out here in the West. Isaac, I know you won't be able to see it, but maybe Brandon or Leo can help me kind of review that one when it gets over here.
hopefully, maybe the Funimation give us a early release on WAC. I mean, like funnily enough, with or should I say, ironically enough, with the Mugen Train movie.
Mm-hmm. Fingers crossed, man. Fingers crossed.
Agreed.
Yeah, but did you have anything else to say on these 2 episodes specifically that we're reviewing? I know we could probably do like a proper season recap next week. I think that would be pretty good to close things out. But for these 2 episodes, how you feel?
That I think it was a great origin story for IDK, everything I want, so to speak. And looking forward to the season 6. Do we know the date for season 6 yet?
They haven't even announced season 6 yet. So there is a dark timeline where it never happens. But My Hero likes to reveal season 6 at the end of, or they reveal the next season at the end of the current season. So there's probably going to be a stinger at the end of the next episode.
Probably.
Saying that war is coming, blah, 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 to be continued in the 6th season. But I would assume season 6, it's usually like a calendar year apart between seasons. So I would assume season 6 might be like fall of next year.
Yeah. From what I've seen, it's speculated that it will come around February. Recent highlight suspect that somewhere in February or April 2023.
Oof. I mean, it's possible because looking at where the manga is, the anime is not that far behind it. And so they might need a little extra time to put some distance between the two. Otherwise, we're going to Naruto this mug and have a whole filler arc that nobody's going to like.
I mean, yeah. Maybe they do an extra movie just to cover it up.
Oh, yeah. These movies have been happening annually now. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get a 4th movie sometime next year. If we don't get another... That might work better. Have the movie come out before season 6 so they can fully dedicate time to season 6.
Agreed. Yeah. And probably I can watch that one early with you guys.
Fingers crossed. It'd be fun if we can get a reaction video from you once you finally can see these movies.
Problem of living in Scandinavia. Everything takes forever to get here.
That's rough, buddy.
Although ironically, we have Dune has released here in Sweden, and I have heard that there's a while before it comes out in the US.
We are still a full month away from Dune, and I hate it. My most anticipated movie of the year. Seems like it's released everywhere else but here. I feel your
Which is just
now.
weird. But okay, well, whatever. Shall we go to the manga portion?
Yeah, we're going to be talking the manga, you guys. So if you are not a manga reader, anime only, we will see you one last time this year, next week, for the finale of My Hero Academia Season 5. We'll probably see you for the movie too when that eventually comes out. But until then, take care. Plus Ultra. We're talking manga chapter 326. So again, if you are not caught up with the current chapter, it released on Friday of this week instead of Sunday because Horikoshi had to take an unexpected break last week. So we're reviewing chapter 326. Who are you, really? Isaac, this is the chapter we have waited for so long. It's the All Might and Hero Killer Stain chapter.
I will admit for a second, I was actually thinking that he was gonna kill All Might.
Yeah, I mean, you've been thinking that All Might was gonna die this entire time, so I'm not surprised.
I mean, it looks like he was going to axe him off in the one panel.
what's interesting is that in this chapter, and this is what I love about Horikoshi's writing, and he thinks of stuff we didn't. Like, he doesn't recognize All Might. And that's something that I just freaking love about how he just thinks this is some dude at All Might's statue memorial, really. And this entire chapter is just everything that I love about this current state of My Hero Academia. So we pick up 326, finally following up with All Might, seeing what happened to him after Deku left him like 2 months ago, our time at least. He's still driving around looking for Midoriya. He comes across his mask that's still at the Camino shrine, which is very important to the series, everything that happens in Camino, because this is where All Might last fought All for One. This is where All Might died, essentially. The hero All Might, that is. Toshinori is still alive and kicking for now. This chapter is really All Might kind of like self-loathing in a sense that he can't be there for his hurting successor. He can't be there for Class A. He feels worthless. He feels like how Deku feels at the start of the series, which I think is an interesting parallel.
I mean, who would blame him to feel that way at this point, honestly?
Yeah, I mean, we've pointed it out multiple times through our anime and our manga discussions of how All Might has been a crappy teacher, but that's really all he has left too. Like, think about it. If he's not teaching Class A or any of the kids in UA, what's he doing? You know?
Maybe he gets a mecha suit and joins the battle at the end, and instead of dying like I suspected for quite some time.
Yeah, that brings up something that I want to get into a little bit later. I'll have to do a quick Google search to get something for you, but we'll get there later. Okay. So All Might is standing at this statue, basically talking about how he's failed, right? And so Stain shows up talking about how he's spewing blasphemy on the world's greatest hero, and he doesn't recognize Small Might, which makes so much sense, and it puts the stakes that you wanted in this confrontation, because you thought he was going to kill him, which makes sense because he doesn't think that's All Might. How crazy would it be that Stain, the second biggest All Might fan on the planet, killed All Might because he didn't recognize him? That would have been wild.
Yeah. But like, it's just so interesting that a hero killer is kind of putting him on the right mindset again, which is
right.
an ironic. I don't know if I should call it ironic or something, but you get my drift.
Yeah, I do. So, what makes this chapter so great is that it's it's Stain basically confronting All Might and telling him what All Might meant to the world, the symbol that he was, right? And Horikoshi has love. You can tell we're closing in on the end of the series when Horikoshi starts using all these side characters, even background characters. Like, we had the guy from episode 1 show back up and basically defend Deku, right? Like a chapter or two ago.
Honestly, I didn't remember him, so I have to applaud your attention. Remember the attention to detail, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, that was a big deal because he's the first, basically, like, he's the first mutant we really see in the series because of the stars on his head. And Deku just kind of runs up next to him. So, yeah. But we had him show up. But then we also see the last person All Might saves, which is a great moment of how she seemingly every day has been coming out to this statue, cleaning up the vandalism, taking down the signs that say, "I am not here." And it's like, All Might doesn't realize his impact on the ones he has saved. Or he doesn't realize the impact of, yeah, sure, he can't really help Class A right now. But every single one of them is out there because of All Might.
Yeah.
And it kind of harkens back to Stain being right, but doing it for the wrong reasons, right? Like he's going out killing people because they're not like All Might. Where instead we should be lifting people up to be more like All Might.
Yeah, I mean, it's so ironic that it's sort of, it's almost like Horikoshi was foreshadowing this entire event. Looking back at it.
Yeah, but again, that's what I love so much about his writing style is that he can call, like, he might have not even thought about this when he wrote what the events of season 2. But the way he can just seamlessly pick it back up again is an art form. Like, even I'm looking at the chapter now, page 8. There's a scene of All Might running, and it's a parallel of when Deku was also running to save Bakugo without a quirk back in season 1, episode 1, or chapter 1, if you will.
You are remembering extremely amount of details, my friend. I am extremely proud of you.
And this is how I make a living now, you know? All that knowledge has finally paid off.
I mean, that's awesome.
Right? But I think it's really great how Stain was a character that we feared at the start of the series, right? Season 2, he's about to kill Ida. He paralyzes Tensei. He wants to kill all these characters. He probably would have went after Endeavor after a certain point. The only person he wanted to spare was Deku because he reminds him of All Might. And so for him to be the one to give All Might the kick in the pants that he needs, that's a great moment. It kind of reminds me of spoilers for the Legend of Korra. It kind of reminds me how Zahir has to give Korra a pep talk before the series ends, the big bad of season 3. Or even how Naruto's villains always have to come back and help him out after a certain point in the story. Except for Madara and Kaguya. Those villains don't come back unless they're in Boruto for some reason.
I hope they are not. But then again, fuck Boruto.
Enough Boruto talk. We're not gonna harp on that one. But
good thing that Leo isn't here.
Good thing that Brandon is also not here.
That would have sidetracked the entire situation. More than when I go into full pun mode.
What do you think of this entire, like, because we've wanted All Might and Stain to meet up pretty much since Stain has been introduced, and this isn't the fight that we probably expected or anything like that, but I still think it was a twist and a turn that I didn't see coming, but I still freaking loved it.
I think like you said, it wasn't what we expected, but in considering the circumstances that is the My Hero Academia right now, I think it makes sense if you know what I mean. It kind of makes sense in context.
Oh yeah, it does for sure in context, and you know, it's just, hold on, give me 1 second here. Sorry about that. Had to adjust my headset here. Anyway,
no problem.
It makes perfect sense, and it's again though a twist that you don't quite see coming. So I know I joked, it might have been like 4 or 5 episodes ago, but I joked that it'd be funny if All Might and Stain have just been palling around being vigilantes. And it kind of feels like we could head in that direction.
Yeah, if he doesn't die, which I'm actually still feel like he will do, nothing that has happened has convinced me otherwise. It's probably gonna be that. Maybe we get a side manga with them two together. It's a short series like the one that the big Dragon Ball fan reincarnates to Yamcha. But anyhow,
One of my favorite moments is in the page 13. And it's this panel. And this is why I think, again, I might be completely wrong, but I think All Might won't die anytime soon. He might die by the end of it, but I don't think he's going to die in the near future. Is in page 13. Stain is saying that basically All Might is the beacon. He's the one who started this fire of heroism. That flickering ember that he left behind, right, is being nurtured by a select few, but we can't let the fire die out. And I feel like All Might can't die until Deku and Class A make this fire spread. Because right now it's flickering. It really is flickering in the sense that like the civilians need to get their trust back in heroes. Who better to help usher that in one last time than All Might himself? And Uraraka kind of helped out with that. That might be, again, in that panel, why All Might left. Because he's like, okay, she took care of it. They're finally starting to trust them again. I feel like All Might's job isn't finished yet. And again, his job might be to Leroy Jenkins into All for One's office and give Deku enough time to rest up and figure out a plan to put an end to all of this. That might be where he dies. But I feel like this chapter is saying All Might's job is not finished yet.
no, that I can agree with.
Yeah.
It's just with a whole thing on how he has handling the story. It just feels like, yes, I know it's kind of Star Wars, but the whole him, he see All Might in his Force Ghost form, and as the last conversation, that's it just screams something Horikoshi would do, honestly.
It does. Can't argue with you there. So that leads me to what we were talking about earlier. You were talking about like All Might suiting up, right, as a vigilante in his weakened state, like getting a suit of armor or something. And I'm going to share my screen with our video watchers. I'm going to sit that here. Because you were talking about foreshadowing. This is some major foreshadowing.
Oh, I think I see where you're coming with.
Yeah, so give me just a second to get these images up for you. It's taking. Okay. All right. So I am starting to share right now. And boom. You should be seeing it right about now. So this is art drawn by Horikoshi. You see in this image here that I'll put it full screen. Deku is wearing Gran Torino's cape.
Gran Torino is more than likely dead at this point.
Right, but in this art is 3 years old. And he's wearing Gran Torino's. Yes, this is not new. This is from volume 17, and we are currently on volume 31.
Okay, how do you remember stuff like this?
It comes up. Deku's wearing this cape. That's why when he puts on Gran Torino's cape, I didn't think too much of it. Because it's like, I've seen him wear this before. But like Uraraka's not even wearing her new costume that she's wearing in season 5 because she didn't get a new costume yet. All Might is still big here. So it's like Deku has Aizawa's knife and Gran Torino's cape. So I would not be surprised if Deku ends up with Aizawa's knife in this before this series ends. But at the same time, this picture was also up. And this was trending. This was on Twitter. And you can see in the corner here, this tweet is from 2017. You see how All Might is in like a tactical suit?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it even says down here, to the future. Like Horikoshi is put this out 4 years ago. I would not be surprised if All Might looks like this.
Okay. This is just... Okay, now I believe even more that his speech about the heroes when they fight him that day was foreshadowing. I mean, my god.
Yeah, and so it's like...
This is like Oda level planning.
100%.
If you don't know who I'm talking about the Eshido Oda, One Piece mangaka, who has apparently the entire series planned.
Yeah, and I believe it. You have to have an in-game mapped out, and Vigilante All Might or Caped Deku was one of the, like, he didn't have everything planned out, I'm sure, but it's like that was probably always going to be in the cards for him. And it's just kind of funny seeing those random sketches he would post on Twitter or in the back of the book now being put to the forefront of the story. That's why when you said you can see All Might being a vigilante, it's like, well, yeah, it's been hinted at, I guess.
It would be quite funny if that end up true. I mean, if that's end up happening, then I can guarantee you, My Hero Academia fans will just go back looking at the random drawings he has done for years ago and just, can this mean something? Could this mean something? Could this mean something? Could this mean something?
Yeah, I mean, that's how I felt ever since Deku had that cape on. It's like, who knows? That's why you're talking about how I can remember stuff. It's like, at this point, you kind of have to. He's making deep cuts now. I had to take over.
You had to take over what?
I had to take over Brandon's spot as the UA's top librarian.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Keeper of knowledge here. But yeah. With this entire Stain chapter, I love it. It's everything I would have wanted from it. Especially since I don't know how Stain would have reacted if he did think this was All Might at first. I'm pretty sure he knows it's All Might by the end of the conversation, even though it's not explicitly made clear. What do you think's gonna happen next chapter? Because Stain kind of drops the gauntlet and says, now you have to end me. He wants to basically answer for all of his crimes.
That's a good question. I don't think he's gonna hunt him down right now, that's for certain. But honestly, I think this could be a chapter. Next chapter could easily be something that we see Deku being rest up. They use this one as a time skip chapter for being able to show him be rest all and all.
Yeah, me too. I can see that. I also like.
I could maybe see him go back to UA and talk to Deku. Maybe it could be if also talking with him again after that. Sure, it goes against my prediction of their next chapter, next conversation being when he is dead. But if they are truly going, him going vigilante and all, like that picture is suggesting, I could see him going back and talk to arrest Deku.
I can see. I mean, yeah, I never thought that All Might was gonna die before seeing Deku one more time. But to play a little devil's advocate here and kind of take your theory to heart, what point in the timeline does this conversation happen? Like, is this a flashback with Stain to where he walks up on All Might like chapters ago and we're just cutting back to it? Or is this present day after he left UA? Because remember last chapter, I had that crazy suggestion, not that I really believe it, but that crazy suggestion that All Might, like they were talking about screening for Toga and her quirk, but All Might didn't go through screening and he left when they asked him about it. And it's my crazy suggestion was that's Toga. Now, I'm not saying it is Toga, but it's like, did All Might leave and then he bumps into Stain here? Or has this confrontation with Stain already happened? And going back to that crazy theory, did Toga get All Might's blood from whatever happens in this confrontation? You know what I mean?
Yeah, good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, so it's like I don't know what point in the timeline this part of the story is taking place in. So All Might could very well just show up at UA and we not think about it, or something else could happen.
I was just thinking that maybe, I don't know why, but for some reason I thought it was in time. But like you said, it could just easily be when he drops the food.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, are these panels out of order? Because he drops the food. But then that the next page of that panel, I believe, is a zoom in on Stain. And then this chapter picks up with All Might like driving to Camino, and he sees Deku's mask is left there after Class A picks him up. And it's like, did Stain follow Small Might to Camino? And if he didn't recognize him as All Might, why did he follow this random guy? So it's like, I don't know the timeline of events here.
But then again, this is a story that supposedly have only occurred in 1 year, even though it feels like an entire school semester, entire high school amount of years, if you know what I mean. It just feels odd that it's been an entire year worth of stuff.
They should be graduating right now, man. This should be their third
year. Yeah, that I can absolutely agree with.
It makes me wonder, like, we already, like, Horikoshi has said that he's extended the series. It should have ended with Heroes Rising, and that probably would have taken place in, like, season 4. But he's extended the series out. It makes me wonder why he didn't just put them in second year. Like, especially since they're training with Endeavor and doing all this stuff, why aren't they just second years?
Very good point.
The only reason I could think of that is that if the story is going to go on for years, and he wants to take advantage of them becoming second years to have another sports festival or something like that. But if the series is wrapping up, I really don't understand why we kept all of this in 1 year's time.
Because they want a Boruto.
I mean, you could have still did that with them graduating, and then you have a new kids. Class. Yeah. But
oh well, don't get into the Boruto speculation again. I mean, you know that Shonen Jump would love a sequel to this too. So
Vigilantes.
I'm with you. I don't get why they haven't done an anime of it, honestly. But that's a different story, I suppose.
We'll get into that a little bit later, huh? We'll cover Vigilantes.
I know, mate.
Did you have any other thoughts on this chapter 326? Who are you, really?
No, I really don't have to. I really don't have any. I mean,
no problem. So, guys, that's going to wrap up our discussion and reviews of My Hero Academia, episode 23, Tenko Shimura Origin. Episode 24, Tomura Shigaraki Origin, and Chapter 326, Who Are You? Really? I just want to say thanks to you guys for listening to this review. We're going to be back again next week with our final anime discussion, discussing everything from season 5. Maybe we'll even do a little speculation on how they're going to handle season 6. But this has been a fantastic run. Thank you guys so much for listening. You can catch the podcast on Twitter at Amateur Otaku Pod. You can find my co-host Isak Wolf at Emblemaniac. Also, Leo Rydell at Leo_Rydell. He wasn't here for this one, but he's always bringing the geekly goods, so make sure you check him out too. Brandon Alvarado you can find at the Scarlet Fan 52. I'm the Novice Cinephile. We'll catch you next time. Isak, any closing thoughts before we go?
Well, you can find me not that much more than you said. Hopefully, Brandon, I have managed to grab Brandon from the Speed Force, and we are going to cover Eden Zero pretty soon.
Sweet.
We also have a specific, is this a reference in mind that we're going to try to cover? That's a topic from another day.
All good, dude. All good. As far as my channel, you guys can check out some more Fooly Cooly. And I have a video about Dear Evan Hansen, because that is a problematic Broadway show. And I think it's about time we called them out on it. So check out that video. That should be up in the coming week by the time the movie comes out here in the States. We will catch you guys next time for, again, final anime discussion. And of course, you're always going to catch us here for manga discussions. Go beyond. Plus Ultra.
Plus Ultra.